You cannot talk about Supreme Court ethics without talking about how their decisions have repeatedly shielded, delayed, or outright benefited Donald Trump. Even when the legal arguments were weak, the facts were clear, or the consequences were dangerous. This pattern isn't imaginary. It's documented, consistent, and deeply troubling. Hi, I'm Devin Hart. Let's break it down. The presidential immunity delay tactic. When Trump claimed he was immune from prosecution for crimes committed while in office, the lower courts rejected it immediately, but the Supreme Court dragged it out. They took the case slowly, scheduled arguments months later, sent parts back to lower courts, effectively running out the clock. The end result? Justice delayed becomes justice denied, especially in an election year. And Trump benefited from every day of delay. 2. Blocking Congress from getting Trump's financial records for years. Congress had a perfectly legal right to obtain Trump's tax records during its investigations. What did the Supreme Court do? They slowed it down long enough that the investigations expired. Trump left office. Most consequences evaporated. Again, delay was the decision. This wasn't a ruling on principle. It was a ruling that protected one man. 3. Letting Trump use the court's shadow docket to bypass normal procedure. Trump's administration used the shadow docket more aggressively than any president in modern history. The court repeatedly allowed policies to go into effect with no hearings, reversed lower courts without explanation, granted emergency stays from non-emergencies. This included immigration bans, asylum restrictions, border policies, environmental rollbacks, all done quietly, behind the scenes, without transparency, period. 4. Refusing to enforce clear conflicts of interest with justices themselves. Alito and Thomas both have direct political conflicts connected to Trump, yet they refuse to recuse themselves from cases involving presidential power, January 6th related issues, Trump's claims of election immunity, executive authority cases, and because the court has no enforcement mechanism, they were allowed to stay on the bench. That alone undermines the legitimacy of every ruling connected to Trump, overturning century-old precedent that limited presidential power. In several recent cases, the conservative majority has expanded presidential power in ways that directly align with Trump's view that a president should operate with minimal checks and balances. This includes rulings that limit the power of federal agencies, reduce congressional oversight, strengthen executive authority over rulemaking. Who benefits most from a weaker Congress and stronger presidency? A president who wants fewer limits, someone exactly like Trump. Turning a blind eye to election interference and anti-democratic measures, the court has repeatedly allowed gerrymandered maps to stand, voting restrictions to move forward, state-level power grabs to continue. While Trump and his allies pursued strategies to undermine election systems, the court declined to intervene to protect democratic norms, but did intervene when conservative states or politicians asked. The pattern is unmistakable. When a Supreme Court justice waves political flags, takes billionaire gifts, and rules on cases involving the same political movement he supports, when another justice's spouse actively pushes to overturn an election, and when the court repeatedly shields one former president through delay, secrecy, and selective intervention, that is not impartial justice. That is not judicial integrity. That is a constitutional red flag. The Supreme Court isn't just suffering from an ethics crisis. It is enabling the very behavior that threatens the rule of law. And if the court won't hold itself accountable, the American people must demand it. Starting in December, watch for our ongoing series, The Corruption Chronicles, a weekly series that deep dives into the Supreme Court and other corruption throughout the United States government. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps us to grow and to keep bringing you great shows like this. I'm Devin Hart. Have a great week.